Welcome friends to another r/IDontWorkHereLady video. Today we've got some crazy stories, including one of a hostile Karen who has a need for somebody to carry their bags. In fact, it's our first story of the day, written by ShellUser42. No, I don't work for the university. I'm not going to carry your bags. Leave us the heck alone. Backstory: I live in a town in the Netherlands which has a university that is also internationally known. As a result, we get a lot of foreign students here, which, in my opinion anyway, is what makes this place so nice to live in. When shopping, for example, you can easily run into people speaking English, obviously, German, French, Spanish, and there's even Chinese and Japanese students here. I kinda enjoy that international character, especially when you keep in mind that my hometown is actually rather small. Anyway, my girlfriend has overseas cousins living in Japan who got accepted to attend the university. And since my girlfriend hadn't seen her cousin for many years, she was obviously really looking forward to meeting up again once we learned of this. Things to know: my girlfriend and me don't live together, but we go visit each other every weekend, either her or my place. Obviously, she came over to me this weekend. Another thing is that I often enjoy wearing a body warmer versus a regular coat, which apparently sometimes makes you stand out a bit, but really not that much more from someone wearing a red or bright yellow jacket, which is sometimes also a thing over here. Alas, when this incident took place, the cousin had been here for roughly a week or so. So it's Saturday, the weather is very nice, and off we go. Now, the university doesn't really have a dormitory as you often see in the US, but from what I heard, they do maintain a few buildings around town where some students are invited to. Most students need to take care of their own housing though, but the cousin got lucky and was invited to stay in one of the buildings maintained by the university itself. When we got there, it was somewhat busy because there were a few new students moving in, so we met up outside in front of the building. My girlfriend and cousin were very happy to actually meet in person again, so yeah. First moments, there was a lot of Japanese going back and forth, but eventually they decided to switch to English because they figured this was more fair towards me, and now I could also join the conversations. I didn't really mind though. I actually learned a few new Japanese phrases. So here we were, talking in English about stuff, when suddenly we're met with, "Finally, some service. You can stop talking to those bimbos now and get to work here." And when the three of us look over to where this tirade was coming from, we see a filled out woman with that hairstyle, sunglasses, the works, as she drops 2 suitcases right next to me, followed by a bag she was wearing over her shoulder, and then proceeds to walk towards the building. What the heck? "Madam, what are you doing? You shouldn't just leave your bags here," I tell her, but to no avail. She completely ignores me and just walks inside the building. "Bimbos?" my girlfriend says and asks. I tell the ladies that we're just going to stand somewhere away from the suitcases since these aren't ours. When the cousin asks if that isn't dangerous because someone could steal them, my girlfriend and me basically tell her that screw that. We're not going to look after someone's luggage after they just insulted us. My girlfriend excuses herself to me and explains to her cousin, in Japanese again, that the culture in the Netherlands is very different from that in Japan, and that she needs to be careful about this because some people might otherwise take advantage of her sense of morale. The twist: because I couldn't really participate in that conversation, I started paying more attention to our surroundings again and noticed that a student had come out of the building, noticing the suitcases and now looking around. When he noticed me looking at him, he asked me if I knew whose suitcases they were, and I told him in Dutch that some arrogant American witch has left those behind. And the very moment I told him, I noticed that he immediately knew who I was talking about. She tells me that she was the mother of one of the new students and she had been nothing but trouble for the past days. However, because they couldn't really do anything about her, they just tried to ignore it as best as possible. Also, because the daughter was nothing like her mother at all and even profusely apologized several times for the sometimes mental behavior. One of the reasons the daughter decided to attend this university was also to get away from her mom in the first place. Fortunately enough, the mother would be gone in a few days, and that would be the end of it. So people just figured they'd cope while it lasted. Next, he grabs the suitcases, declines my offer to help, and says he'll take them inside the building to keep them safe, and he'll let the student know about it. They say, if anyone other than the harpy lady asks, please tell them that name has them. Otherwise, could you please just ignore her or something? I know I'm asking a lot. I smile but tell him no promises, and meanwhile the ladies had switched back to English again. This time we're talking about some shops that are available. The cousin tells us that she's lucky to have found a discounter, Aldi, but it's somewhat far away. After which, girlfriend and me tell her that there's a little closer by which is also not too expensive. One thing leads to another, and we soon decide to go over there. Also because girlfriend and me had to do some shopping anyway. So the cousin runs inside to grab her bag and some other stuff, while girlfriend and me wait outside. The fallout, sure enough, Harpy Lady shows up again, spots me and storms over. "Hey you, where are my bags?" she yells. I tell her, "How should I know? Maybe try asking inside." And she looks pissed. "No, that's your job. You go get my bags already. Right now." Is this for real? Are we actually experiencing a Karen in the wild? It was then and there when I decided that I would write this up, especially when I replied, "Madam, this isn't my job. I don't work here." She almost cuts me off. "Shut up, of course it's your job. You're wearing the uniform." At which point my girlfriend completely loses it in laughter, which visibly annoys the Harpy Lady even more. "You call that a oh my god, that's a uniform?" my girlfriend stammers. She now officially has the giggles, poor me. "How stupid are you?" And she laughs some more, almost doubling over. See, we actually had a small argument about my choice of pants that morning. I wore a rather worn out pair of jeans which has the end of the pipes basically torn in half because I figured I'd just wear it despite being a little too long for me. Strong boots, plus little disregard for puddles, plus just do it, eventually took their toll on the pipes. I think it looks kinda rough/rugged, better than people who wear pants with holes in them, but my girlfriend disagrees. Though she does respect my choices, bless her. But yeah, what uniform? Alas, now we have an enraged Harpy Lady saying, "What's your name? I'm going to report you to the management." My girlfriend's giggles now also started to have their effect on me, so I go, "You don't need to know our identification," even briefly making the gesture a bit, which obviously triggered my girlfriend even further, which in turn enraged the Harpy Lady a whole lot more. She actually turned red. "How dare you make fun of me? This is all your fault. I'll have your job. I'll sue, just you wait. You're going to pay big time for my damages, and once my lawyers..." And then I follow up on something that I actually remembered more people mentioning on this very same subreddit, which was already full in my mind by then. I raised my finger and moved it straight into her face. Much to my surprise, this was the very first time in my entire life I ever did that. It actually worked. She actually piped down, giving me the opportunity to retort, "I told you I do not work here. I don't work for the university. I don't work for this building. I am a visitor. I even tried to warn you about this, but you chose to ignore me." What kind of idiot just dumps their suitcases next to a complete stranger in front of a building? The shopping. At this time, the cousin comes out again, sees the commotion, but my girlfriend quickly snaps out of her giggles, at least for the moment, which is all I noticed, and beacons her cousin over while she starts walking towards the gate, giving me a quick pat on the back to make me aware of this. So I tell the Harpy, "Go inside, try asking nicely if someone knows about any unattended suitcases, and leave us the freak alone." While I'm starting to follow my girlfriend, which is followed by a "How dare you?" To which I say, "No, how dare you?" and we walk away. As we're 5 or so minutes into our walk with casual chatter, my girlfriend suddenly says, "She's following us." We decide to ignore her and went on our way to the supermarket. We do our shopping, girlfriend and me even decide on a little courtesy gift. So when we're standing in line before the registers, girlfriend tells her cousin that we'll be paying for her groceries, which almost brought her to tears. She was very appreciative, really nice girl. And then we got into the second act. Suddenly, the woman started screaming and shrieking that, "I need a manager, those jerks stole my luggage," which immediately sent my girlfriend into giggles again when she murmured, "Our Royal Highness's masked luggage." We saw Spaceballs just the night before. As could be expected over here, nothing happened. We paid, bagged our stuff, and left while this woman kept shrieking, when I suddenly heard an alarm going off just as we went outside. But for obvious reasons, we didn't stick around, nor did we see her following us anymore. We actually did learn what happened though. Aftermath. This evening, my girlfriend gets a text from her cousin asking if we could meet in the park. in the evening. Strange, but we go over there, and sure enough, cousin's there with another girl. This girl turned out to be the Harpy's daughter, who immediately apologizes to us, telling us over and over how sorry she was for what happened. She learned that girlfriend's cousin was somewhat involved in the happenings and thus asked/pleaded, almost begged her if she please would allow her to apologize in person to us. Writing this up still makes me swallow uneasy. This still gets to me. I really feel for that poor girl. At the same time, I also really admire how she manages to distance herself from all the crap that her mother's pulling. Seriously. If she would ever ask for help, both me and my girlfriend would probably step right in, even though we don't know her. Yeah, that girl was nothing like her mother. Nothing at all. The apple can fall far from the tree, it seems. I honestly felt and still feel sorry for the poor girl, really, because she was very sincere, very honest, and really a fun and cheerful person to be around. We're even planning on inviting her to future shopping with the four of us. See how that goes. Me and 3 giggling girls. Oh dear. But what happened? Enter the Netherlands, where no one pays attention to screaming lunatics. Unless, of course, they try to leave a store with stolen goods. It seems she took something out of our cart, but although none of us noticed her doing that, my girlfriend did notice the item, candy, missing. So she just grabbed it again from the racks next to the registers, and we checked out as if nothing happened. When we just bagged our things and left, versus getting upset over our missing items, I guess, the Harpy lost it and ran after us, which triggered the alarm, which triggered security, and because of her actions, several cashiers already had their eyes on her, so when she did make a run, they immediately jumped her. No, she didn't spend the night in jail or anything. In the Netherlands, we take great care of our criminals. But according to the daughter, really nice girl, the experience did have its effect on her mother. Not a positive one though. It seems the mother's going to sue Little when she's back in the States because they served someone who stole her luggage. Even the fact that the daughter got her suitcases back afterwards doesn't seem to change this. Tomorrow she'll be gone though, and we can sleep easy again. My heart goes out to all our US Redditors who risk having to deal with this kind of stupidity on a daily basis. This was a tiring, taxing, and bizarre experience, and I hope I'll never meet a Karen again. Modern travel is both the best and worst thing, apparently, that's happened to mankind. If you got the money, you can see the entire world now. But it also means that Karens have the opportunity to get all around the world too. Needless to say, if you enjoyed this story and stories like this, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss my daily uploads. And if you saw a Karen like this following you, would you confront them, or would you want to just try to run away? Or would you just mind your business like OP and their friends did? Let me know in the comments down below. And our final story of the day is from MinimumGoat9783, not DoorDash. So story time. I wasn't feeling well on Thursday and had credits on DoorDash since a prior order of mine was majorly messed up. I ordered my food for pickup because it was on my way home from work and wasn't sure where to pick my food up from since this was my first time doing that. I waited at the host stand, nothing. Another person walked in behind me and was also waiting, an actual DoorDash person. I finally get told where to go by the staff, and the bartender immediately invades my personal space and looks at my phone. I'm a very private person, and also not thrilled with people in my space during a pandemic, so I was just like, "Hi, what are you looking for?" He was all, "Do you not have the confirmation screen up yet? I have to see that before I can give you anything." So the other person and I just look at each other and shrug like, what the freak is this guy's deal? I get the screen up and show him my order, and he grabs it and plops it in front of me. I check my order and thankfully it's all there. He busts out with, "So do you like working for DoorDash?" All snarky with a crap-eating grin. I say, "No sir, I actually work at local bank. I'm just picking up dinner." He looked flabbergasted, y'all. Like I had the audacity to pick up my own food that I ordered. So I just went home and angrily ate my burger. I think I'm more mad at the fact that this dude does this regularly to other DoorDash people that are actual drivers, since none of the other staff seem to react to him. Anyways, thanks for letting me rant. I imagine an app like DoorDash makes it very easy to do an order like this, but if you're gonna order from a place and pick it up, don't you just wanna call the order? Or especially if they had an app or a website of their own, wouldn't you save money? Needless to say though, this dude is a huge jerk, and I would say worthy of a complaint. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.